Hey boo's, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little different. I'm going to give you more information on me as you see in the title. If you're interested in the title, keep watching. So as some of you may already know, I am adopted. I got adopted at the age of 12, but of course prior to being adopted, there had to be a story that led up to it. So this video is going to be a part one of, it's going to be a how do I explain this? It's going to be two parts to this video, so of course this is part one. I'm just going to give you guys my home life and how I got taken away from my parents. I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Simple City, G Street. I hate saying that because sometimes the place is like a stigma on me, but that's literally my background. Simple City, G Street is Nathisha. My mom altogether had 6 kids, 3 girls and 3 boys. But 3 of her kids, she was able to raise them, and they didn't have to go through the foster care system. The last 3 of us is where things kind of went a little rocky. There were 3 rooms into the apartment that I did not explain, and one room was the playroom where we would go and play. The second room was the bedroom, and the third room, there were so many clothes in this room that you could not feel the bottom of the floor. So when you walked in, you just was stepping on clothes. And I call that the sex room because I do remember her friends or just people coming over just having sex in that room. Having sex on top of the clothes. And I really think because I was exposed to sex at an early age and the way that it was presented, that's why my teenage years of life and the way I took sex was completely different. I looked at sex as just an act. It was not supposed to be emotional. It was not supposed to be planned out on who I was going to give it to and what I was going to do. It was just an act because I saw people go in and have sex, and it was an act and they felt good, and that was that. A lot of my childhood, or what I seen in childhood, did base a lot of my teenage years. And I noticed that as I grew up, and it was like, wow, this explains this and this explains that, but nobody never really got it. The latest that I can recall, I got taken away from my parents at the age of 6. And it was me and my 2 other brothers. One was younger, and the other one was about 2 years older than me. So the house that we lived in, it was an apartment, and the conditions were really, really bad. I do remember that. The kitchen was so bad. It would talk about roaches. It was just really bad. We never really ate that much when it came to us living there, only because my mom didn't have money to really feed us and get us food. And from what I recall, sometimes she did have money and we did have food, but I do recall a lot of nights in which we just didn't eat because it was nothing there. I remember one time we used to eat ketchup and bread. Sometimes my mom did go grocery shopping. The refrigerator was full that day. By that night, everything was gone. And I don't know how she got money to go grocery shopping. I will tell you this though. My mom never was selfish. If she had food, she would give it to her kids. She would make sure her kids ate. It was never, I gotta feed myself. And sometimes when I noticed she was high up, I wouldn't even want to eat. You can have what I'm eating. And she would feel so guilty to take it, but she took it. And I didn't feel bad that I didn't eat, but it was, my main priority was taking care of my family, taking care of my mom, taking care of my little brother, my oldest brother, making sure him and I was on the same page, because it literally was survival of the fittest. Because my mom was a drug user, I really had to grow up really fast. So you have a 4 or 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So it's 3 of us, and because I knew my mom was so strung out on drugs, I really, really watched her go through it. And because I saw her go through it, I kind of was like the mother figure to my brothers, because we didn't have our mom. Like, our mom was really going through it. There's times where she would come in and she would be so like high, and I think her drug of choice was crack cocaine. And the only reason why I have this, I assume that is because the only image in my head at that age, and the only way I could describe it, was I seen them scraping plates a lot. I mean, there were so many, and them little knives things, and it not like little razors or blades, and I would see them scraping plates. And that was the only image that I had, or the way I could describe what she would do. So someone said, well, what type of drug? She was like, I don't know. She just scraped plates a lot. She just scraped the plate. So I'm assuming she was on crack or cocaine, and that was her drug choice. There was times where I used to witness her just coming so high up, and I would feel so bad for her, because it was like, how do I get her to feel better? How do she stop? And I mean, if you've ever witnessed someone who's on drugs and they're high, you feel so bad for them. So she would come home sometimes and all she would want to do was just lay and cuddle, and she would want to go to sleep, and I would try my best. I would take like a cold rag and put it on her. I would rub her head, and I remember just playing like, God, just make her feel better. Like, why does she have to feel like this? I was so young that I didn't understand that she was ultimately doing this to herself. I didn't understand that this was an addiction that she had. So maybe she wasn't purposely getting high, but I wasn't able to understand that she's taking drugs. This is what's making her this way. But I knew that something was wrong that made her incapable of taking care of us, taking care of herself, and our living conditions just wasn't perfect. So I had to step up. My parents were both, I don't know if they were together, because my father would come home and sometimes he wouldn't, and sometimes he'd come home. But most of the times when I did see them interact, it was never on no I love you, no. It was never like they were together. They always was fighting or arguing. Every time he came through, they were fighting or arguing. Every time. I have memories of my father, but they're not the best memories. Only because my father was a different story compared to my mother. He never abused me. He never, did anything bad to me. But it was more so what he said to me. My mom, on the other hand, all I can really remember of her is that she was really, really sweet. My mother never yelled at me. She never put her hands on me. She never treated me badly. She was always so sweet to me. And she always, she knew I took care of her. And I think that's where I get my affectionate ways from, because my mom was very affectionate. So leading up to me getting taken away, like I said, my mom was on drugs. We never really eat. And the whole neighborhood knew that these kids were not being taken care of. They knew that my mom was strung out. They knew that my dad was strung out in and out of drugs. They knew our house was not, legit. And I just remember one day, my brother and I were super fucking hungry. Like, we were so hungry. And usually I could tolerate it, but this day I just could not, because I think I just hadn't eaten. And it was late at night, and I remember yelling out the window. I was like, Mommy, we're hungry. And the place that we lived in, it echoed. So, you have these apartment buildings and this big old gap in the middle, so it's echoing. And I remember my mom was coming home. I guess she heard us calling her, and she was high. And the neighbor says, "Juan, if you don't feed them kids, I'm gonna call CPS on you." And I didn't know what that was, but I was just like, we're so hungry. Needless to say, we didn't eat that night, but she came in. CPS is Child Protective Services. And that lady really held to her word. She called the people on my mom. I just remember the lady came out and did a home visit, and the home was like completely nasty. The kitchen was nasty. The living arrangements was nasty. And we were just nasty, and we never went to school. So she honestly gave my mom a couple tries. Clean your kitchen, put food in the house, clean up your house and give these kids a healthy environment, and I will let you keep your kids. But Miss Allen, if I have to keep coming back, I'm going to have to take them away. I really, really recall this. And I remember when she would come over, my mom would clean the house spotless so that she didn't take us away. Like I said, we never went to school. And when we did go to school, we were really dirty, smelly. My hair, she would do my hair, but my clothes just stink. And we just missed a lot of days. But this day specifically, we got ready to go to school. I mean, my mom got us up and put our clothes on. And you could tell she was trying an effort to keep her kids. And this morning, after she takes us to the door to take us out, and I was like, Mommy, I don't want to go. And she looked at me and she said, Baby, you got to go to school. I have to keep you in school. And I said, Well, Mommy, I don't want to go. And my mom was just like, and I told you she was so sweet, so she just said, okay. Needless to say, we didn't go to school. We stayed home that day. But all of a sudden, I just hear a bang, bang, bang. Like someone was knocking on the door. My mom knew who it was. She really knew. So she gathered the kids, me and my other two brothers, and she was like, get in the closet and stay. Get in the closet. All of a sudden, I hear a lady walk through, and she's like, Miss Wanda, the kids wasn't in school today. What's going on? And it was like she knew exactly where to come. She knew where to go. She walked down the hall of the apartment, came to the bedroom, and simply opened the closet. And when I tell you, I literally, as soon as the closet opened, I was like, I was hoping that she just didn't see us and I made us invisible, but she was like, come on kids, time to go. And I just knew, I was like, damn, we have to go. Realizing now, I feel like it was my fault because I really didn't want us to go to school that day, and that day if we were in school, we may have not been taken away. But then everything happens for a reason, and God's plan, you can't alter his plan. So whether we didn't go that day, it was going to be another day she came up to the school and we was not there, and she would have taken us then. And I do remember my mom was just crying so bad and pleading, like, please just don't take my kids. Give me a chance, don't take my kids. And the lady was like, I gave you chances. I have to take them. And I remember my mother dropped to her knees at this pole, and we were in the car, and I got the kids in the car. And at this point, guys, I knew what was happening. I knew. And the car pulls off, and I turn back, and I'm looking at her, and she's crying. And I knew then that this was it. I knew that she was not going to get herself together, and I knew that we were being taken away. And I tried to console my little brother, and he really was so young, he didn't understand what was going on. It was my oldest brother who knew, but he didn't want to hear it. But that was my whole being taken away background on my life. I've never seen any baby pictures of me. I have no clue what I look like as a baby. And like I said, there's a lot of questions that I had that are still unanswered, that I pray that I'll be able to get answers for. I don't know much on my background history. But this was just part one. I will come with part two as how the story develops. And also, you know, my first group home, foster kid, and family adoption. Because the story is so long, I might break it up in 3 parts. But I hope that you guys was interested. That's how I got taken away. My parents were drug users. They just really couldn't take care of us. The living conditions were bad. We were malnourished. We lived in a poor neighborhood. And that was that. So hopefully I hope that you guys give this a thumbs up and you did enjoy the story. And just stay tuned for part 2 and possibly part 3. I love you guys. I'm Nene Tanae to all my new subbies. Hey boos. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye y'all.